Welcome to the Moon God Pod. I'm your host, JwowLax. With me always is my main man, JwowLax, and today we're shipping off to Boston. BostonBob, Moon God Extraordinaire, uh, been around since the early days, an OG. And boy, man, happy to have you on. You've been active in the Discord, and with a name like BostonBob, it's for me, it's kind of funny because you'd never know what like people look like in real life. And there was a Survivor, like the TV show Survivor.
Yeah, yeah, Boston Rob.
Rob.
Yeah,
I was like, fuck, I wonder if it's the same dude. But nonetheless, we've got a survivor in this bear market. BostonBob, welcome to the show, brother.
thank you, thank you. Excited to be here.
So let's just jump right into it. What was your foray into the crypto world? What was your first like NFT buy? Like, how did you kind of uh come on this journey?
Yeah, I mean, the first time I got crypto was in like 2017, 2018, whenever that initial boom was, or one of the bull cycles where all the hysteria was happening, and I had no idea, what I was doing, and didn't have a lot of money at the time, and kind of just followed some people. I just been on Twitter since I think 2012, so I'm always just trying to find different interesting things on there. And I found Charlie Shrem, I think his name is. He had a documentary made about him, and he was like an early Bitcoin guy and got involved in all this stuff. And he was like putting pics out on Twitter for altcoins, and I bought a bunch of those, and within like 2 months, I think I was down like 95%. And I just didn't look at my crypto for honestly like 2 to 3 years at least. After that, I just like set it and forget it. I didn't even bother selling because I was just like so frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And then I checked back in close to the pandemic, when things started to heat up again. And luckily, I mean, every single coin that I had bought back then was worthless, except I found BNB, and that had just like gone parabolic. And so I was able to cash that out and to kind of start my NFT journey. And I didn't even know what an NFT was. I hadn't heard about punks or anything like that at that point. But Jonathan Bales, I don't know if either you're familiar with him, fantasy DFS guy. He had wrote this article and posted on Twitter, and I came across about how he bought that John Morant on TopShot for 35 grand. And at the time, me and my buddy, who's he also is in on some of the Aku stuff with me, he was getting me into the physical card market and explaining to me the ropes and what he's been doing with that. And it was like he had just gotten me into that like a month before I found out about TopShot. And all the friction involved in that was ridiculous. Like he knew about trucks, like when they were being delivered to Target, people were like following them. You're waiting in line, it's like Black Friday, trampling over people trying to get packs and stuff. And then, you're ripping them, and then you got to make sure you're holding them perfectly, and then you got to put them on eBay, and then you got to go to the post office, and then eBay's taking this huge cut, and then the people can just decide that they don't want it anymore and send it back to you. Like all of the headaches and loops involved in it, I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, yeah, you might be able to make money, but there's so much friction involved here that I don't know how much time I want to invest in this. And then as soon as I read about that Bales article, it just made sense to me. And then Mark Cuban actually had written an article on his blog around that same time, explaining his parallel with stamps when he was younger, and he was just explaining the benefits of the technology. And it instantly was like, this is a game changer. This just makes so much more sense. It just removes all friction. I don't ever have to leave my computer, and I can do everything within a matter of clicks.
So Top Shot, I'm guessing, is your first NFT.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's kind of pinpoint, because it's very important for the Top Shot onboarding to know exactly. Were you when you first went to Top Shot, were packs available that you could buy on the
No,
site? So
no,
you
it was January of it was probably mid-January
mhm.
of was it 2021
Yep.
when things really popped off.
So that's
Yeah.
when Lovox hits me up, and he had told me about NFTs and stuff, and then he's like, the Top Shot thing resonates. We're both really big into basketball, and we we looked at it, and then they're like, I was kind of like, it's cool, but like I'm not into collecting cards. Like I had all the '90s like Shaq rookies that like my mom threw away and all that crap, but there was this we always talk in this space about like timing and being early, and so we were our first you know foray into Top Shot really was uh it was holiday hoops, like the Christmas pack, and so we went for it. We get the LeBron, like I got the pack, we decided to share it, and we binked the LeBron Christmas thing.
Oh wow.
But what was interesting was we were on the site, and one night, it was like a Saturday night, we're on the phone board, and it's like, why don't we just buy some packs? And I think like we bought like 10 or 20 packs each, and they were not worth anything, and these were the series ones. And had we not made that decision that night, we would not have, like had like a really exciting for
Yeah.
Top Shot. So we kind of had that moment where we really built like a collection. So you jump in and you're instantly waiting in the queues, I'm guessing, and getting frustrated and
Oh yeah.
getting beat out by the bots and fast internet and everything.
But even that, like even beyond that, like so like that Bales article just got me hook, line, and sinker. And I got my friends, two of my good friends sent to them. And again, they were physical card collectors. And so they got it too right away, and it made sense to them. And we just pooled our money and we went crazy. I mean, that was like peak where things were going for just ridiculous amounts of money. I mean, we were dropping like I lost track, like I want to say like close to like 10 grand on like a Rondo moment, like just so stupid. And like based off of just like I was just trying to find ways to find like hidden value moments because some of them were so inflated. And I was like, oh, this one he's dropping an assist to LeBron, so LeBron's in it, so that like it has to be worth more.
And you're like, and you're like, hey, this one has an 8 in the serial number, so this is this is like his birthday or 2 days away from his birthday, so this is amazing as well, right?
Yep, exactly.
Oh, it was fascinating times. If you wouldn't mind, I know before we jumped online, we were speaking about poker. Can you
Mm.
talk about how poker kind of integrated into this whole thing and how it relates to the NFT space?
Yeah, well, I mean, bankroll management, risk taking, being comfortable with taking L's, all of that. Like it's more the mental side of things. Like a lot of the math, yeah, some of it translates in terms of the bankroll management stuff, but um, there's so much strategy involved in poker and the psychological element, and that kind of spills over into just any type of investing or trading, and especially something so risky like NFTs. Like you have to have the stomach for it. Like I've tried to get friends or family involved, and if they don't have that type of background, whether it be through poker or sports, it's very tough for someone to understand or wrap their head around. You buy this coin, you buy this NFT, like you really need to be comfortable with it going to zero or down 90%, and not lose faith. Like you can go on such cold streaks of poker, and it has nothing to do with with how you're playing, and just living through that and being able to experience that, it makes it so much easier to stomach some of the volatile swings in crypto NFTs.
So my background and Linux has been an avid poker player for forever. But I had my Twitter was all poker when I was playing professionally. And so once it like I started getting into the crypto, like I got exposed in it because I just started actually using my Twitter again, and all these poker players that are like just super smart are talking about, crypto, and then I started seeing them like switching because I remember the rise of punks too. Because that Top Shot thing, then the punks started coming back, and like I just thought it was ridiculous that someone was paying 10, 15 grand for this pixelated picture, you know. And but a lot of the poker players were doing it, and I was kind of like, well, I mean, maybe there's something to it. However, I didn't have 15 grand to, like it was like ridiculous to think at the time of spending 15 grand on something like that.
No, and that's kind of spot on to exactly my experience. So I noticed some of that too. Not all with poker players, but just in general. But by that point, just by proxy of following some of the DFS guys too, I started to see people. They felt like Pranksy would end up on my feed, and I hadn't followed him at that point. And others, and I would see and these punk PFPs, and then I started to read about them and find out about their history. And to your point, I didn't have that kind of money to buy one. But always in my head at that point, this was probably like March, like end of February into March. I forget exactly when. And I was like, why isn't there a second place? Like to me, there didn't feel like there was a second place out there. So there has to be a market fit for something else here. And then that's when, getting into maybe April, I was just scrolling Twitter one night and I saw Pranksy and a bunch of other people talking about their mint and bored apes. Obviously, I had no idea what that was. And I went to their website. I didn't even have MetaMask. I didn't have Discord. So I had to download all that and figure that out. And I had no idea how to I didn't even know how to connect to the website. I didn't know anything. And so I jumped into Discord, and at that point, it wasn't, insane the way it is now. And I was just able to DM with some of the founders, and they walked me through everything. And I actually minted, but I didn't know where it went. And this was at like 2 a.m. So I just went to bed. And then I woke up the next morning and it had minted out, and everyone on Twitter is chirping about them. And I immediately hit my friends up who I got into TopShot. I said, listen, I told them, because at that point, our TopShot bags were just wrecked, like destroyed down like 90% within a matter of whatever it was, 2 months. And I like kind of vowed them, like, I'll find a way to get us our money back. Cause like, I lost all three of our money. And I'm like, we have to make this bet. Like we have to get some of these. So we got, I can't even remember, four or five, nothing crazy. That morning that it minted out. And again, it was on the thesis that why isn't there a second place PFP? And I wasn't like a snob, because I didn't know any better, to be like, if you were a punk holder, you may have been more likely to be like, I don't, like, get this out of here. Like, this is stupid. But I was open to it because I thought there needed to be a number 2, and there wasn't anything else out there to me that spoke to me or looked like it would resonate with others. And this to me looked like it would resonate with others.
So you get 4 or 5 apes. How many apes do you have now?
Oh, 0.
0.
Yeah, I just have mutants. Yeah, I have a couple mutants.
And where was that at? I'm guessing you're betting on making your money back, because what I'm getting at is like with Top Shot, I had friends that I got in and they got wrecked. I have other friends that actually made a couple $1,000. So did you kind of miss out? Did you make a mistake? Did you where was your exit?
Yeah. So I held some individually, and then some in my shared wallet with two of my friends. And what I made the mistake, because I wasn't an experienced trader, I didn't really trade stocks or anything like that. Like I said, with the crypto, I'd set it and forget it for years back in 2017. And I started flipping them. I tried to get in on the trait game and find undervalued rare ones and flip them. What I didn't realize I was doing throughout the course of the rest of that year was just racking up an insane tax bill because I was just doing short-term flips over and over and over again. And then once I realized that short-term cap games are 50%, I was like, oh my God, like what did I just do? I owe like a very large amount of money. But we held I held up until the night before the ape coin drop. So I held it for a long time. And it was baked in. It was a good price at that point still, because everyone was trying to get it for the ape coin. I thought it would go down a lot after that drop.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been in hindsight better to keep it, but I still made a good amount. And then in our shared wallet, we had held one all the way through 1 year for the long-term cap gains. And then I just took some off the top, paid my taxes, and got some munis.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting story. Would you say that the purchase of the ape was, a top 5 life decision for you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Top 1 investment for sure. They could never ever be topped again.
So as we're kind of navigating the pitfalls and the FUD and really kind of a down point in the bear market, where do you see us at right now? And do you see us, is there going to be some kind of beacon of light that pulls us out of the mud? Just curious as to your thoughts.
I do, but I think it's going to be longer than we hope for. I've
2-3
been,
months.
What's that?
So like 2-3 months.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I wish it was only that. But it just feels like obviously it's been like this way for a while. The whole economy's spooked, and with these bank runs and things, if it feels like there could be a running in crypto over the coming months, a continued rally or something like that. But it just doesn't translate to me that would equate to a run in NFTs, because the run in crypto makes sense in the sense that people are looking for an alternative to the banking system. But with everything, if that means a collapse in the actual economy, with that, I just can't see anyone feeling like NFTs are a good investment at that point. So I think it's going to take a good part of this year to shake through whatever's going to happen with our banking system and whatever way people react to it. But I don't necessarily you're just going to have patience, really, because everyone's still building. Like this stuff is still so new that, you can't have a movie out in a year or two, whatever. So all of these, you just have to pick the right ones, right? The ones that are building, because a lot of these are going to go by the wayside very soon this year. I mean, we see it across the board. Everything's down so hard.
So your introduction to Aku specifically, we've got the Bored Apes, and if I'm following the timeline, so in January you were in TopShot, you meant the apes in April. Genesis comes out right in between that and at the end of February. So when was your kind of onboarding to Aku, and what kind of drew you to that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I didn't really know about Nifty Gateway much at all. And I know that was a lot of people's starting point into NFTs as well. But it just didn't get in front of me on Twitter, or I don't know how. I didn't really know too much about it. But eventually I learned about it. Obviously, People and stuff, I think, was around that time. So I knew he had done some stuff over there, but I just never really got involved with it because, quite frankly, I never collected art before. So it felt like a big leap for me to understand what's the right thing besides a PFP, right? And I knew the Nifty Gateway was mostly art. So I had been following a bunch of people on Twitter at that point in the crypto and NFT world, and I think it was Girl Dad, who I don't know if he's any longer a moon god or not, but he would post about a coup, and I would see some of the videos of the Genesis, and I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. And then I Googled Micah, and he has an SI article. I'm sure, I don't know if you've read it, or I'm sure most people have. And it is like a really good article, and it explains his background as an MLB player and his transition to an artist and about a coup. And it just was like, it made so much sense to me. It was even more so when I read that Bales article, and it clicked for me instantly. It clicked for me even more with after I read that SI article and I looked into the Genesis chapter. I was like, okay, this guy, in order to get to that level, you have to be an absolute grinder to make it to, you know, the big leagues. And then have the, you know, the talent to also make it in the art world. And like I just knew he had the drive. And you know, I saw some stuff where he had spoke at and things like that, and you could just tell he was like a great front man for it too. So I could see that the, you know, the vision was there, the character was there. It was a very cool, a little mysterious, and I have a son, and so like everything about it was just like, oh wow, like if there's going to be a character that comes out of Web3 and this NFT craze, like this to me feels like the Toy Story of Web3. So it was just so easy to wrap my head around versus random like seal, zebra, whatever, PFP that like, granted all of these are made up out of thin air, but nothing had like the message or the story or the front man of Micah.
So that's kind of interesting, right? Like, and I find it with everyone that we've spoken to, the story, just Micah being the killer that he is. And one of the things we were talking about just a minute ago in the future of NFTs was that it's not a good investment, probably, you know, right now. Like it's going to take some time. However, with this project in particular, like it's more than an investment, you know. And the problem is like when you're trying to sell it to somebody and you're like, it's this awesome movement, it's this great story, this is what it could be. All these things like are very compelling, but when it comes to like this space, it's very investor driven. Like I'm going to put my money in, but I want to make sure that I'm getting a return on it.
Mm-hmm.
So what's kind of the disconnect, like just kind of putting that on your plate? How do you digest that?
The expectation of needing a return, needing utility.
Yeah,
It's tough because like, I mean, Bored Apes got lucky. That was lightning in a bottle. It was perfect timing. The market needed a second place, like I said, at the time. And the way that there was like an organic rally around it, and what caused like this diamond handedness, I'm still not really sure to this day. But that was always going to be impossible to replicate. I saw so many people try to be like all the way from 0.08 up into 100 whatever ETH that they went to, be like, oh, I can sell my Bored Ape here and I can get 50 Zappy Zebras, like whatever, and then it's going to be so much easier to make money because these are so much cheaper, blah 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 blah. But it's like, it's hard to think in like that because there's just not enough people in this space, especially today. I think NFT statistics in the last couple of weeks said, you know, there's maybe 50,000 wallets traded, but there's probably only 5 to 10,000 actual people making those trades. And you know, with who's left here today, like you're a true diehard, a true degen, and you need to accept the fact that this is, if you're going to stick around, that this is going to be a slow process. I, you know, I get impatient sometimes. It's hard to see some of the things some of the floor prices on some of these projects that just, I mean, don't hold a candle to the potential of a coup, and it just makes you like scratch your head and wonder, like, what is the market thinking that I'm not thinking, or seeing that I'm not seeing? Because utility can't be the end all be all, because it runs out. Like, even like I own Mutant still, but I feel like their day in Apes too, like they already milked that cow, right? So I don't know. It's nuanced. I think people just need to understand that this is going to be a long process, and utility isn't the only way. Like, there needs to. That's why I was so excited about the film. I knew that it was going to take a long time, and be a big investment. But if that had been in the works this whole time, and at this point maybe we would have only been like a year out or something, it would just supercharge the community so much.
What are your thoughts right now in the direction of Aku and where Aku is, right now? I've definitely seen some discourse in the Discord where there seems to be a kind of a consensus of, hey, what's going on? Where are we? Just kind of curious to get your thoughts there.
Yeah. Again, like, I trust Micah and Roger, and I think they got you know, good people in place there. I do think it's easy to um be out of touch sometimes with your holders, and it's not exclusive to them. It's across almost every project. But the difference between them and every other project is Micah and Roger are in there, and they're listening and responding to us and replying to us, and they take it on the chin sometimes too, and own it if there is a mistake. So in that regard, it's awesome to see, because it's rare to see. But I do think, you know, every decision made this year across every project, the first thought has to be, how does this help my holders? Because if you're not thinking that way, then almost all of these communities are going to go away, because again, there's only a few thousand people left, right? And they're just going to go where they feel rewarded. So, you know, I think they have some good ideas on the plate, but I being more mindful of, you know, without creating fake utility, like, how can we reward our holders? And, you know, I was excited for some of the art drops and things like that, and the burn was discussed. And I think maybe we need less expectations, because the burn probably shouldn't have been talked about the way that it did if it was only going to be, you know, initially 50 that got burned. Because in my head I was like, oh, we're going to reduce the supply like a good amount, and that'll be, you know, healthy for the ecosystem. But 50 is not really going to
it doesn't do it. I was thinking 1,000 at least.
Yeah.
1,000, right?
Yeah. And then I posted in the Discord too. I mean, I was upfront about it. I said, you can't be extractive at this stage when everyone's underwater, charging, you know, 0.4, even if you get 2, even if the art is great. And it's obviously the lineup was insane. It was awesome art. I don't even know how that can be topped for another round. So it was great art, don't get me wrong, but at a time where the NFT market's at where it's at, the macro economy is at where it's at, and then a coup specifically, unfortunately a lot of us are underwater. So I just think that, just if there could be a little more mindfulness of, we can't ask people for money at this stage, and find ways to like get art in their hands, get other things in their hands in more creative ways that aren't extractive.
Right. You know, I think the tough part about the whole space is kind of balancing the line between what am I entitled to as an NFT holder, right? Like, I'm not a Series A stock investor. I don't own common stock, but at the same time, we have this project that's basically about giving and thoughtfulness, and all can thrive. And it's really tough when you put the money aspects in it. A dear friend of mine kind of broke it down to me like this, and he said that, will Micah ever rug? it's not possible. I think Micah would never rug. I think he's a top flight individual, and it may just be a situation where we have a guy who's not necessarily been a CEO before, and he's finding his way. And sometimes that just takes time. Curious what you think about that, JWoww.
For me, I mean, I think our biggest answer was our darkest moment following the smart contract when he was on the Discord in tears and was like, if it's just me and Glitch here in the Discord, I'm going to keep working and I'm going to keep doing. And I think there's a difference with how do I put it? Like the other projects, I think Moonbirds or Doodles have been fudded and they're still higher than ours, right? So that's very frustrating for me because I think we have such a good message, but whatever. But the thing is, we had this concept. Micah had this concept, and then he put out the art, and then the money comes in. Where all these other projects just basically picked an animal and then got the funding to come in, and now they're expected to come out with these great ideas. Where we have the foundation, we know the trajectory, we know like at the end of whenever it comes, like there will be a movie or TV show or like this Aku will be like some kind of loving character that hopefully we all, or like our kids and we're seeing on lunch boxes and things like that. And there's a ride at Disney, the Aku World or something like that. But it's going to take a while. And I also want to just put this out, and I want to get your opinion on this, Bob. Like this, I think we put so much pressure on Aku in our Discord for like, come on, Micah, come on, RD, like make something big happen. But it's a bigger picture. It's really an NFT problem, not just an Aku problem. Like you're saying, we have like what 5,000-10,000 maybe active people in like maybe the entire space. Well, we need a lot more than that, and that's a broader picture. That's not just Aku. And so for Aku to shoulder that burden, I think sometimes we have to remember that it's an NFT or digital collectible as a whole. Like that, the mass adoption has to be the whole space, not just the Aku a community.
100%. And that's why, I've said in Discord before that I think there needs to be more of an effort to market to Web3, the people that are left, because that to me feels like the only way to survive this at this point. I think Aku, if it was just a Web2 company, whatever, it would still be, massively successful someday, right? Just the character, everything is still there in Web2. And some of the initiatives that they rolled out are, people have pointed out, like they're very noble, giving out the backpacks and things like that. That's great. I'm assuming those are going, and I could be wrong, to maybe underprivileged areas, which is again even better. Mm-hmm. But it's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that could ultimately be a funnel that one of their parents would, look into Aku and ultimately buy an NFT. I don't know if they view that as a funnel or just a good deed. To me, it almost is in line with, and in 2021, everyone had on the roadmap, we're donating to charity, right? To some degree, it feels a little like that. And again, it's a great thing, but I don't see how that's part of driving enough eyeballs or awareness or attention back to the Web3 ecosystem.
JwowLax, how do we do?
Excuse me. I think it's good, but I do think that we don't necessarily know what the secret sauce is, right? So maybe I believe that somehow, some way, we're going to be okay. And we have no idea what direction that's going to manifest from, right? We don't know if it's going to be some like, wow, I never thought that this particular idea would be the thing that kind of got Aku off the guardrails. But I think it's going to be something that we weren't aware of and something that maybe other Web3 companies aren't experimenting with, right? So, we don't know the relationships. We don't know what's to come. We do know that there is going to be a character that's coming up that's going to be accessible through a burn, right? We don't. I haven't necessarily seen other PFP projects do something like that, so we just don't know. We don't know what, like, let's say that BostonBob and he takes his mega and that goes viral and that goes, that's the thing. We just don't know what that is. So I'm really curious to see in the future, kind of, what that looks like. That'll be super interesting to me.
So I'm going to steal Lovox's question that we ask most guests, and that is, Micah calls you up and says, "Man, I need to take a break. BostonBob, you're captain of the ship now. What's the most important thing that you would focus on if you were leading the ship? Like, what's the strategy that you would like to implement to kind of move things forward?"
Yeah, I mean, and I think it is part of the roadmap, but it's not clear to me the way that it's phrased. There's a lot of technical jargon that people have pointed out, and I think I'm going to look into simplifying it. It is the animation, right? That's what the Genesis chapter was so cool. That's what I think most of us got excited about, the prospect of whether it was a TV show or a movie or whatever. And I know that it's a very expensive endeavor, but I find it hard to believe that they're not in a position to raise even more money just with all the awareness and attention that Micah gets, and the places he's been invited between Sotheby's and Disney and South, like you name it. And just, I can imagine him, in a room with investors. Like, I know they've taken VC money. We don't know how much. To me, if I had that to hold on to and I knew that the end goal was a Netflix show or whatever, it would make me feel so much comfortable holding it through the downswings. And I think that a lot of people would feel that way as well. Now, I don't know if I'd want to wait, I don't know if I'd want to hear that it will take 3 to 5 years or something like that. That's why, like, the short stuff, I think will go a long way. Like, once we see the ability outside of the chapters for the Aku story to grow, like, we need to tangibly see that. I think it'll just give people a lot of reason to be bullish.
I mean, so when with the smart contract and that 30 million being locked up, like, if you're going to make this Pixar-esque movie of Aku, $30 million is nothing. That would be like not even a third of the budget you would need to kind of put this on. We see the clips from Spring Hill, and we know that there's been a connection with that. LeBron's company, I've seen so many movies that, with Braun, like in the opening credits. And I got to be honest, he hasn't put out like a bunch of banger movies. Like, how is this storyline not like, let's move this to the front of the line and put this out? Like, those are kind of the things that I clamor for. And I give it's a different animal, but I kind of always point to like Ferocious, and like in the last 6 months, he's put out 2 45-second clips, like previewing FIWA World, that really don't tell you much, but boy, does the internet just like kind of go crazy when those 2 things have come out. And Ferocious, while I think his art is just top notch, like, it's like, man, just take a page, like just start copying, like what some of these projects are kind of doing. And my biggest I don't want to say complaint, but my biggest issue with Micah, unfortunately, is his character, and you can't change it. But it's like, I get the pro athlete, like, let your bat speak for you, but boy, it's like Deion Sanders, like he could lead the league in interceptions, but he needed to chirp so he could get his big contracts and get those endorsements, like I wish there was a little bit more, chirping coming from Micah and being like, look how great I am. But that's not him. That's why we're here.
He did it to an extent, though, a little bit when leading up to the Akutar Mint, when he went on Carly's show, Nick and Pio's. I forget, like, he went everywhere, and I listened to all those, and it was just like the way he was, spitting his vision, everything. It was just like, wow, this is even even better than I thought. And hearing him articulate it, it obviously resonated with a lot of people as we saw what happened leading up to Mint and during, like it went crazy. So like we know obviously that was during a bull market, so it's different times, but like we know the value of him getting out there and spreading that message. However, I don't want him to just do it for the sake of doing it because they need to be ready.
Something you're selling.
Yeah, there's something they're selling. Yeah. And we still, even we're in there every day, like it's still not totally clear to me. And that's what I've voiced in the Discord before is, you know, I used to be able to go to friends and family and be like, you know, like explain a coup and explain the message and why this is, you know, if you're going to invest in NFTs, that you should go down this road. And now it's, and I know he had, you know, the thing at South by Southwest, but it's still not like overly clear to me, like why I should be telling other people to buy it or why I should be adding to my bags at this point. Even little things like, I could be alone in this, like they're built in Unreal Engine 5 for a reason versus just a flat PFP. Like, I don't know how much work it is, but it seems like low-hanging fruit that we should just be able to use our Akutars on this Zoom call right now as our PFP, as us. And that's instant utility for every Akutar. And think about if we're all doing that right now, or even on other random Zoom calls with our friends, like people are seeing that and being like, whoa, or like you're posting clips on social media, like, oh, that's cool. Every time I see it, even if I don't own that PFP, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool how they're acting as their punk or their ape or whatever.
Yep, exactly.
Back in the day in Atlanta, I used to contact owners of clubs and I'd sign contracts, and then I'd develop a street team who'd go and they'd bring people to the club for me. I don't know if you know this, JWoww. Like I did this for.
I'm like, who the fuck is this guy?
You know, I did this probably 8 or 9 times and had different degrees of success. I wonder if we could maybe reassign some mods, you know, find some, you know, outgoing crypto personalities and kind of use that same model in terms of, you know, personnel acquisition. I think there's a way that we can be more creative in the way that we kind of use some of the mods, because I think it's the way it is now. And I believe all those positions are paid, that we're not necessarily extracting all the value we could from them.
I mean, I agree. Like, you know, if you have a failing company, you got to shake stuff up. You know, Big D is a moon god. I talk about him all the time. Big Dirty Dan, and he was a high level general manager for Auto Nation, and we were talking about it today and just how like what they would do if they had a auto store that was failing every year. That general manager got cut and they bring in a new one until they found somebody to turn it around. And every time they bring in a new general manager, they would pretty much clean house. Just like a professional team, if you hire a new general manager for, you know, the Indiana Pacers, bet your ass that half that team's not going to be there in the next year or two, and the coach is probably going to get fired and he's going to bring in his own guys. So I think if, you know, right now, you know, like we're kind of like, we're actually like the Lakers. We're kind of fighting for that play-in spot, and you got to make some moves. You know, you got to shake it up and get that right recipe. So,
yeah, and there's so many people in the Discord that have so many great ideas, and might not even want to be paid. Like people are willing to hop on a Zoom call with Roger or whoever, and like I think people mentioned the community council. I think it's a great idea just to ping things off of us or whoever wants to step up and participate in those conversations. I know they have the Discord feedback channel, but it's hard not to have a back and forth like we're having here to like really flush it out.
Yeah. We're kind of running tight on time. Lovox, final thoughts? I think we're gonna. Yeah.
No, I just want to, BostonBob, thank you for your insight and your story. I think it's super interesting. And I think a lot of folks have that story. And it's amazing that like within the NFT space, it just takes one that one time you catch lightning in a bottle and magical things will happen. But just thanks again for your time.
Yeah, no, appreciate it.
So, of course, Boston Bob, we have our two hitters before we go, and I first want to know, as a Boston guy, what's number one for you? Bruins, Red
Oh,
Sox,
Patriots. It's not even close. Yeah, yeah.
Patriots. Easy
That's
enough.
probably knew that. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to ask, what was your favorite Patriots Super Bowl championship?
I mean, God, it's either the Seahawks or the Falcons. I'm I'm gonna say the Falcons because, as crazy as it sounds, like I still felt like we had a chance even when we were down 28-3, and I, I was defeated. Don't get me wrong. I was like in shock and just in despair and wondering, how is this possible? Like there's no way this team is that much better than us. And seeing what they how they pulled that together, and came out of halftime and responded the way they did was just, it was incredible to watch.
So you might have seen, I was at the Super Bowl this year. Me and Lovox have teamed up. He's been my camera guy for a number of Super Bowls for Media Day. And I would say half of the ones that we've covered, the Patriots were there. I got really good with talking to Jimmy Garoppolo. He was our guy. But I will say, for that Super Bowl, I'm glad you said the Falcons, because I remember that one very specifically in talking to those guys and just being like, there's no way they're going to lose. And talking to the Falcons, like, there was just like, we're confident, but there's that other guy, that number 12 on the other side of the ball that we just don't trust. And even when you guys were down, I was like, it's Tom Brady,
Yeah.
It's in the fourth quarter. Like, when I was in college and we used to play like Madden or something, and you get the ball, with a chance to win the game with like 30 seconds, my famous line was, too much time, because you can always pull it out. And that's Tom Brady in a nutshell.
And it's Mahomes now. That's, everyone was on the Eagles, but I'm like, I'm going hard on KC, because even if they're down 20, I'll never feel like I'm dead. And
My homeboy.
Yeah, he's the man.
So the last one to get you out, we always ask, who's one person you'd like to see on the pod that would be a tough get for us, but the caveat is you have to help us get them.
Oh, I'm trying to think. I would like to see PO. He's a moon god. He's been in this. I don't know if you guys have tried to reach out to him.
Yeah, we've tried.
He's from this area as well. He's always so good to Micah when he comes on his show. He was very early on Nifty Gateway. I think it would be really cool to hear from him. But yeah, I mean, I hit him up sometimes. Yeah, he's not overly responsive, but I'll definitely give it a shot.
Yeah. All right, we got you booked for that. So, and I'm guessing you're going to take the Celtics this year in the NBA playoffs with my boy Tatum. So,
yeah, but I'm very worried about the Bucks. I'm not going to lie.
That Giannis guy's pretty good. So,
yeah.
Well, with that said, for Lovox, Boston Bob, thanks so much. We will see you next time.